feeling deathly ill. I think it was the ice in that glass of milk I drank in the bar in Calais while I was waiting for the hovercraft, or it may have been the ersatz orange juice I bought from a vending machine on the Autobahn outside Munich. My stomach reels at the memory. When I began this book, I was 64 and had lost none of my zest for exploring new places and asking nosy questions of perfect strangers. I didn't know a thing about long-distance bus travel in North America, so I did some investigating. I learned that a good way to proceed was to buy a Discovery Pass from the storied Greyhound Bus Lines Incorporation of Dallas, Texas. I decided a 15-day pass would be about right and went ahead and ordered one. For days I watched the mail closely, like when I was a kid waiting for something for which I had saved up and sent away. I asked a number of my friends and relatives if they'd like to accompany me. The typical response was, "EU, are you kidding? Didn't you hear about that crazy guy on the Greyhound who decapitated his seatmate a couple years ago? Ate some of them, too. Not me." I had indeed heard the story. It's true and horrific beyond imagining. In the summer of 2008, near Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, a carnival worker named Tim McLean was on his way home on the bus and was murdered in the most gruesome manner by Vince Wei Wang, computer engineer and undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. However, such experiences must occur less than once in a lifetime, so I thought it would be a pretty safe bet to enter the Greyhound netherworld. Nevertheless, I resolved not to be at a loss if I got into a tight spot, and equipped myself with a Victorinox Swiss tool, a shrieking electronic alarm, pepper spray, and a rapier-like steel walking stick. Let any aspiring decapitator beware of meddling with me. In any case, this was my thinking on the subject at the time. Accordingly, I set out on a dark and rainy Thursday morning, the 9th of February, 2012. I felt a bit keyed up, like a fellow who had decided to go skydiving and was having serious second thoughts. I lived near Victoria, BC, so my wife drove me to the ferry terminal near Sydney. Bless her heart, she was delighted for me to be undertaking an unusual project. Besides, she was probably glad to get me out of the house for a couple of weeks. On the ferry, I could catch a bus and proceed smoothly to the Vancouver bus station on Main Street. Once there, I was surprised to find security personnel scrutinizing the bags of the departing passengers. I wondered how thorough these chaps were going to be, because the defensive items mentioned above were expressly forbidden according to a pamphlet entitled Greyhound Security Precautions. Through the motions they went, with appropriate facial expressions, grave and suspicious. However, in spite of all their frowning, rummaging, huffing and puffing, I somehow got through their screening process with everything intact, every single thing, right under their noses. It was a wonderful example of mock thoroughness. I was off to a good start. In due course, we crossed the border at Blaine, Washington. I had never crossed the Canadian-U.S. border in a bus before. We were frog-marched by armed officers into the Customs and Immigration Hall and asked the usual intrusive questions. From their tone and demeanor, I was half expecting to be herded into a confined space, shaved and deloused under arc lamps. Of all things, the officers were most interested in how much cash over $10,000 any of us might be carrying. Among Greyhound passengers, I'll bet this has never happened in recorded history, but still they keep looking. I idly wondered what the protocol was if they were so fortunate as to catch anyone trying to bring in such a bale of cash. Would they delay the whole bus? How could you ever catch up with your traveling companions? Maybe I'll try it with Monopoly money sometime, just to see how they handle the situation. As part of the routine, these officers x-rayed our bags. One bag after another went in and out of the machine. Nothing was turning up. They'd almost finished with us, and they were looking pretty glum. Then they came to the backpack of the girl ahead of me. Suddenly, they perked up. Something must be afoot.